Vegetable production requires a lot of attention in order to have a successful result. One of the most challenging issues is to reduce the damage of pests and diseases. Farmers are always encouraged to follow integrated pest management, where prevention is the key. Different practices are applied in the field together to help for better management. From control practice like making beds and furrow to give optimal space for plants to grow, to regular scouting in the field for pests and diseases. However, if after all, the population of the pest still exceeds economic threshold, pesticide might be an option. Make sure that before buying a pesticide, you know the pest or disease you need to control, since pesticides can be specific on what they can control or prevent. Pesticides are toxic and need to be handled with good knowledge in order to optimize the effect and minimize the hazard to humans and the environment. In this spraying video, we will touch upon the following items. Before spraying, pesticide labels, knapsack sprayer, nozzle and calibration, PPE, and water quality. During spraying, mixing pesticides, spraying operation, and after spraying, wash tools, body, and clothes after spraying. There are many different types of chemicals in the market. Each of them will have a different target and purpose. The label or the pesticide package will give useful information about the pesticide itself. The label will also provide you information on what pest or disease they can control or prevent. The label tells you how dangerous it can be and how to handle it in such a way it will not endanger your health and of others. Read it carefully before you buy and before handling to make sure you use it and protect yourself in the best way. Pesticides come in different forms and are packed in different packages. On a pesticide label, one can find information about active ingredients, how toxic the particular pesticide is to humans, and how to protect oneself when handling such pesticides. To obtain a good result from a pesticide, it is important to apply it to the crop in a proper way. Good spraying equipment is needed for that. In order to distribute pesticide evenly on a crop, a knapsack sprayer can be used. There are many types of sprayers, but for small-scale farmers, the most common one in use are manual-operated knapsack sprayers or motor-operated ones. With a manual-operated knapsack sprayer, one has to pump manually, and the droplet size can vary depending on how stable the pumping is. With motor-operated sprayers, the pumping will be more stable, and therefore the droplet size will be more even throughout the spraying. A knapsack sprayer consists of three main parts: a tank where mixed solution is contained, a pump to give pressure to press the solution out in droplets, and a lance and nozzle wherethrough the droplets will be distributed to the target crop. It is important to check all parts of the knapsack sprayer well before using. A leaking part is dangerous to the operator and will waste chemical. Leakages should always be avoided. Nozzle type and quality will determine droplet size and spraying pattern. There are several types of nozzles. The most common ones in use for vegetables are hollow and full cone nozzles and flat fan nozzles. A hollow cone nozzle has an opening with a circular form. When one sprays, the fluid will form a ring form on the floor. This is to distinguish with a full cone nozzle, where the wet pattern will form a round area on the floor. A hollow cone nozzle is recommended to spray contact insecticides and fungicides, as the droplets can easily penetrate into different layers of the canopy without creating much runoff. Flat fan nozzles can be used for herbicides and systemic pesticides. They may expose the operator less as they produce larger droplet size with less drift. When spraying with a flat fan nozzle or full cone nozzle, one needs to overlap a bit for the best coverage. Do not spray with defect or worn nozzles. This nozzle is defect. The spraying pattern is not even but varies. Some droplets are bigger than others, and the nozzle does not spray good on all sides. So not all plants receive the same amount of pesticide. You need to renew nozzles regularly. It is important to know if the equipment is still functioning well. In order to do that, calibrate the tools regularly. At least, calibrate the tools at the beginning of every new season. There are two things to calibrate: the spray pattern and the volume of water coming out of a nozzle. Each nozzle will make a different form of pattern depending on the type and quality of the nozzle. If the nozzle is worn out, very often that pattern will be different from that of a new nozzle. Therefore, checking the nozzle pattern can give an indication about whether the nozzle is still good to use or not. Fill the tank with water and spray on a dry, flat area. Check the pattern formed from the water coming out of the nozzle. A hollow cone nozzle will give a ring pattern. A flat fan nozzle will give an oval area. If not, it is a sign to change to a new nozzle. Checking the water flow and the exact amount of water coming out of the nozzle will help to adjust the correct working speed. With the correct working speed, you will get the desired amount of pesticide needed for a certain field. Prepare a bucket that contains water coming out of the nozzle, a watch to check the time, and a knapsack sprayer with a nozzle intended to use. Pesticides are toxic. Therefore, it is always important to avoid contact with pesticides as much as possible. Wearing PPE when handling pesticides at all times is recommended. Depending on what kind of pesticide one decides to use and how toxic the pesticide is, an instruction of what to wear is indicated in the pesticide label. In general, it is always good to protect the body, feet, hands, and face while handling pesticides. Remember, the bottom of the pants or trousers must be tucked outside of the boots. Use waterproof shoes and gloves to protect hands and feet. Do not use cotton clothes as it will absorb the droplets. It is best if shirt sleeves are elasticized. Use long rubber gloves tucked inside the sleeves that can be washed both inside and outside after use. Information about what PPE recommended to use is presented on the pesticide label. It gives recommendation for mixing, spraying, and storing pesticides. Pesticides contain many active ingredients and also additives. These materials will all have contact with water to make a solution for spraying. Bad quality water will influence the quality of these materials and make them reduce their pest control effect. Choosing good quality water for spraying is an important act that many farmers overlook. There are 3 main factors that can influence water quality: dirt, such as organic matter and clay particles, pH, and hardness of water. These factors can be seen with the naked eye, or checked with a paper test strip or a special device. The first main factor is organic matter and clay particles. Water from ponds and ditches may contain high levels of organic matter or clay particles in suspension. Parts of the chemical may be absorbed and rendered inactive. These can normally be seen with the naked eye based on the water transparency level. Otherwise, it can be measured with a specific device for accuracy. The second main factor is pH. If the pH of the water is too high, undesirable chemical reactions may take place. These reactions may reduce the effectiveness of the pesticide. If the pH of the water is too low, it will damage the crop and make the tools worn out faster if they are made by metal. the pH of water can be checked with a pH measure. Do this if you suspect that the pH of your water is too high or too low. Acid can be added to the water to reduce the pH. Alkali buffers can be added to the water to increase the pH. Always adjust the water pH before adding any pesticide in the spray tank. The third main factor is hardness or electrical conductivity. Hard water is water that has a high mineral content. Hard water is often indicated by the formation of limescale or chalk in parts that will have contact with water. Electrical conductivity, a measure of salinity, can be measured with an EC meter. Make sure to check the water quality before using it for spraying. The most dangerous work with pesticide is pouring and mixing. Pesticide can penetrate through your skin and make you severely sick and cause chronic diseases later in your life. Read the product label before mixing a pesticide. Follow the safety precautions on the label and understand the instructions for mixing. Wear the correct protective clothing. Choose a mixing and loading site away from people, livestock, pets, wells, and water. Always mix pesticide outdoors or in a well-ventilated place. When you spill, clean up spilled chemical immediately. Use absorbents like dry sand and remove it thoroughly. How to start? Begin by filling the spray tank 1/3 to half full with clean water. Never put the chemical in first and then top with water. Measure accurately. Don't guess. Small errors in measuring can cause large errors in application rates. Mix only the amount you plan to use immediately. Add the chemical in the water as close as possible to the time of application. Mixture should be used within 6 hours. Do not prepare water with chemicals for more knapsack sprayer loads in one batch. The spraying should be done in the morning or late afternoon. Try to avoid spraying at the hottest time of the day. Learn about the habit of the pest can give good indication on when to spray. For example, cutworm will go into the soil during the day and comes up only in the evening. Spraying late in the afternoon can be a good option to make sure hitting the target well. Remember to check the weather forecast as well. If it is going to rain within 3 to 4 hours, postpone the spraying. If it is too windy, delay the spraying to later. It is best to spray when there is a slight breeze for better distribution of the pesticide in the crop. Always spray following the wind direction to avoid inhaling the chemical. In order to give the best coverage of the solution to the crop, spraying operation is essential. Remember to maintain the same walking speed, height, and movement of the nozzle. It is also important to spray with constant pressure. It is important to know how the type and wear of a nozzle will affect your pest control capacity. For a flat fan nozzle, you have to spray with an overlap to make sure the same amount of solution will be distributed evenly. When using a hollow cone nozzle, it is important to make uniform patterns with the stick. Always sway in the same direction and angle. If you are swaying the stick without any pattern, it is a risk to miss some spot where the plants will be harmed by insects. On the other hand, hitting the same plants several times can easily cause runoff and waste of the product. It will cost more money. Crop stage or crop height is also important to take into consideration while spraying. It might give an indication of what spraying operation should be done and how much spray solution is needed. For low crops or crops at a young stage, keep the nozzle at a constant height from the crop while walking. For crops with chalice or bushy crops, swing the stick with a uniform pattern, parallel to the surface of the crop from the side. It will give the best coverage for the crop. For high crops, you may need a longer lance or special nozzle angles. After spraying, the tools need to be washed thoroughly before storing. Leftover chemicals in the equipment might cause corrosion or unwanted effect for the next mixing and spraying application, which in the end will damage the crop or reduce the effectiveness of the product. Clean the equipment with clean water for at least 3 times. Clean the tank, lance, and nozzle. PPE needs to be washed separately from other clothes of the family. Keep the tools and PPE in a locked storage, preferably with signs indicating dangers from toxic chemicals. After cleaning the tools and washing, make sure that the operator will also take a shower before she or he rejoins the family or does other activities.